So yeah, just want to say again, a massive thanks to Sonia. That was excellent. I just want to make a quick point when it comes to setting up squat practices, or what Sonia was talking about, especially with the sleep devices. For me, one of the biggest things was, if you're going to set up a squat practice, always thinking outside the box. How are we going to be different? What are we going to do that really makes us stand out? So, for example, with our business, we looked at all the competition, researched it, and for us, there was a clear issue that nobody in our region was treating nervous patients. Nobody was doing IP sedation, and that has been massively fruitful for our business. But it's just looking inside that toolkit, outside the box, what can we offer? And then, the sleep medicine thing is fascinating. So, we'll see what happens with that. I'm very excited about it. So, next up, we have Pat Langley. So, some of you might know Pat, some not. Pat is actually a fellow dentist who actually set up a squat as well.
I did.
You did, yeah.
I did.
Pat is here with Dentistry Compliance to talk about something really, really important today. And it's really about CQC registration and what do we really need to do and think about when we're setting up our practices from a compliance perspective. I personally, for the first time this last year, have seen this process go extremely wrong, to the point where this practice was refused registration. It is the first time in my career that I have ever seen this. Hopefully, with Pat's knowledge and experience, that will never happen to anybody in this room. So I'll pass over to you, Pat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Hello, everyone. Now, two amazing speakers before me, and they talk to you about things you want to know about. What I'm going to talk to you about now is things you need to know about. And I'm going to try, because I'm really passionate about this, to turn it into something you also want to know about. Because hands up in this room who is inspired by and is passionate about compliance. Thank you. Thank you. Hardly anyone. Thankfully, I am. And I think I loved both the speakers that have spoken this morning. For me, Raghav was all about be the best at what you do. Now, I no longer do clinical dentistry. I didn't stop doing clinical dentistry because I didn't love clinical dentistry. I stopped because I could no longer be the best I could be for my patients, and because I wanted to do something else as well. So I think one of the important things to perhaps add into what Raghav was saying was understand what motivates you. Why do you want to set up a squat practice? What is your objective? What are you trying to do? And for me, my big driver in life has been to make a difference. So when I was a dentist, I felt, believed, and did make a difference to my patients, which every single one of you in this room will do as well. What a gift we have as a dentist for somebody who comes into the practice a total nervous wreck, perhaps in excruciating pain, and through careful care, treatment, listening, kindness, empathy, all of the things that we deliver on a daily basis as dentists, you can send that patient out perhaps half as nervous as when they came in, maybe not always completely lacking in nervousness, and you can send them out pain-free. What other job can you do that in? What other career lets you do that? So for me, when I was a clinical dentist, what motivated me and my reason for doing what I did was to make a difference. What I do now is to make a difference for dental practices, thousands of dental practices that I've been privileged to work with on my journey to get here and talk to you today, because everybody comes on a journey these days, don't they? So I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. I did indeed do a squat practice, and you're going to be really jealous, I think is probably the word here, because I did it when you could just set up an NHS practice anywhere you wanted. You just put your plate up, wait for patients to come, and we had no CQC. So my squat practice was, we painted it red and black and cream just to be completely different. had a Castellini, I don't even know if they're still going, Castellini dental chair that was red and black and cream. Thought that was really different, really cool. Just stopped working most of the time, so that was a terrible, terrible decision. And put the plate up. And so I had kitchen. We moved the kitchen table out of our kitchen into reception. My mother was our receptionist, and my cleaning lady said she wanted to be a dental nurse, so she came and worked with me as a dental nurse. And so you can tell how long ago this is, because now you have to be training or qualified, which she then became, actually. And then I put my plate up. 5 patients arrived on the first afternoon, and then my research had told me that this was a good place to set a practice up because the only other dentist in the area had a drink problem and wasn't very popular. And that was my research. Now, these days, I think you have to do a whole lot more research than that to decide where you're going to be. And I really identify with what Raghav was talking about being scared but doing it anyway. And so was I scared? A bit, because we didn't have any money. And we'd already bought a practice. My husband's a dentist as well. But I did it anyway. And then after my 5 patients on the first afternoon, I was busy, which was really inconvenient because my nurse had no idea what she was doing. But we did it. And it was a huge success. And a few years ago now, we sold it. And it was great. And then that I think I've always wanted to know more, to learn more, to do more. And so I was part of the founding team at Denplan. That was scary too. There was a moment where it probably wasn't going to work. I was then clinical director at Oasis, which is now Bupa. That was scary too, because I was stepping from the purely professional world into the slightly professional but mostly commercial world. Goodness me, what a big, scary step that was. And then I was Chief Dental Officer at Dentex, one of a very, very successful corporate that I was privileged to be part of. And then in 2010, I took perhaps what was my biggest risk ever, and I left my safe, very well-paid job at Oasis, and I set up a company called Appeline, because I could see the CQC coming, and I thought, practices are really going to struggle with this. So I left my safe job and my nice salary, and I sat in our kitchen for 6 months and created what then became Appeline, which was a service dedicated totally to helping practices with all matters relating to regulatory compliance. So that's the CQC principally. Also in the other parts of the UK as well, and also with GDC. And so that's how I came to be here today. So am I passionate about CQC registration? Absolutely not. Who on earth would be? Am I passionate about making a difference to you guys? Yes, I am. So I'm going to share with you some hints and tips on how to do it. So this is what we're going to look at. I'd like you to feel at the end of my talk today that you do know how to register with the CQC, you understand all the documentation you need, you understand how it's going to work. We quite often have practices come to us and say, oh, well, I found a premises and I've had it all kitted out, didn't use a dental builder, big mistake, didn't use a dental accountant, big mistake, didn't use a dental lawyer, big mistake. So we're going to start up. So now I'm going to apply to the CQC, and so we want to then open in 2 weeks' time. And that's not going to happen. So we're going to talk about registration timings. And we're going to talk about some of the common pitfalls. So how do you do it? Okay, well, you submit an application via email, not via the portal. So the portal has been an unmitigated disaster. So you're lucky that you're thinking of doing this now rather than a year ago, because a year ago you had to do it through a portal that was a total mess. So they've gone back to doing it by email now. Can I just ask, actually, how far your squat journey you're through? So hands up who is almost ready to submit a CQC registration. Thank you. Hands up those who are nowhere near registered and nowhere near ready. Okay, hands up those who are already registered. Okay, great, thank you. So those that are wanting to set up, the first thing you need to do, the very first thing you need to do is to apply for your CQC enhanced DBS, and that can take quite a little time, and you can't even start your registration journey until you've got that. Decide who is going to be your registered manager, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. That depends on what kind of registration you're going to go for. So there are 3 different types of registration. So you can either register as an individual, that's just you on your own, registering as an individual. In that case, you can be your own registered manager. You don't necessarily need a registered manager. Or if you have a limited company that you operate through, then you are called an organisation, and you do need a registered manager then. If you are going to operate as a partnership, you also need a registered manager. So having a registered manager very much does depend on what kind of provider you're going to be. So you need to be very clear on that, and if you get that wrong, it will hold up your registration process. You must make sure that your premises are fully compliant and inspection ready. Now, we've worked with lots of practices who thought they were ready, didn't seek any expert advice, and actually have got things horribly wrong. So perhaps they're setting up a spectacularly beautiful practice that looks perhaps more like a 5-star hotel than a dental practice, and well, I'm not going to put stuff up on the walls, and I'm not going to do it like that. You have to know what you're doing, and I would suggest you seek expert advice at every level. So builders that know what they're doing, accountants, lawyers, people who have experience with helping and supporting squat startup practices. Builders in particular, please under no circumstances work with builders or kitters out who don't have experience of doing dental practices, because I can pretty much promise you that will go horribly wrong. The one that really broke my heart actually was a lovely guy that contacted me a few years ago, and he said, "Oh, we're all ready to go now, beautiful new practice," and it was beautiful. In a nice part of London. I wonder if you could just come and give us the okay and just tell us that we're ready to go, and because our CQC inspection is in 2 weeks' time, and the registered manager interview, more of that in a minute as well, is also in 2 weeks' time. So I went there, and goodness me, absolutely spectacularly beautiful, hideously non-compliant, so would not have passed their CQC registration. So I had to say to him, he was there ready to open in 2 weeks' time because he thought he would pass. You have to push it back. You can't have your CQC registration. He didn't have the correct radiation protection. His decontamination room wasn't compliant. It all looked beautiful. It was horribly non-compliant. So think about the financial implications of having to put your opening date back. So really, really make sure that you work with builders that know what they're doing, and bring expert advice in to tell you to do a mock CQC inspection for you, just to check that you're going to be okay. Another beautiful practice also in London was opening up, and I went to the practice and I said, "Oh, what are you doing about ventilation?" And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, we've just had a pandemic, we know now that ventilation is really important, and building regulations require that you have 10 air changes per hour. So actually, for anyone who thought it was the pandemic that brought that in, it wasn't. It was healthcare regulations that were always there. She hadn't even thought about ventilation, and so she would not have passed her CQC inspection. So it is really important that you make sure as you can be, that your premises are fully compliant and inspection ready. Otherwise, your opening will be pushed back. Gather all the supporting documents you need and make sure that they're the right ones. And then decide where you're going to get these documents from. Because if you don't work with the BDA or a compliance company, then where are you going to get these documents from? So this is just a list, and do by all means take photos of the slides if you want. This is a list of the documents that you'll need to submit to the CQC. This is before they come to inspect you, that you will need to submit to the CQC, and they will have to be tailored to your practice. The thing that the CQC hates more than anything is to go into a practice and see a document that says this is the infection control policy for brackets insert practice name. That is a real red flag to them, and they will pretty much be very sure that you don't know what you're doing. So, but these are the policies that you need to submit during your registration. So you need a consent policy and procedure. You need equality, diversity, and human rights. You need a governance policy that talks about how you will run your practice. Tomorrow we're going to talk about what happens after registration, and we'll cover governance then in more detail. You need an infection control policy that has your logo on it, the name of your infection control lead, and is not a generic document. And you need a complaints policy, and it needs to be compliant with whether or not you won't be operating in the NHS, but it needs to be compliant with the timelines that are set by the NHS, because that's what the GDC says that we need to do. You need a medicines management policy. Goodness me, that's a complex document. I recently had the pleasure of updating ours, and probably only took me 2 weeks, actually, working six days a week to get it up to where it should be, because things change a lot, and you don't realize that perhaps things have gone, are no longer in date. You need a recruitment policy. CQC is extremely hot on recruitment and making sure you have all the right documentation. We'll talk about that tomorrow in a lot more detail. Safeguarding policy and procedures, really, really hot on that. You need to register with the Information Commissioner's Office. That's for data protection. You need to comply with all the data protection requirements as well. Public and employer liability insurance certificate or a quote for it if you haven't got it yet. You need to complete a statement of purpose, which is in 4 parts, and it lays out how you are going to operate within the regulations of the CQC. You need a financial liability statement. And those are all the things you need before you need to gather all of those together before you submit your registration. Now, you cannot open your practice until your registration has been approved. Now, the CQC calls that operating a regulated activity. So there are 3 regulated activities that we provide to patients in dental practice, and your statement of purpose will ask you how you intend to deliver on those regulated activities. So you can't treat any patients until the CQC says that you're good to go. The CQC process for registration is meticulous and thorough. It is likely to take at least 4 months, and if you get anything wrong along the way, so you submit any incorrect documents or your practice isn't ready, then that will put it back. And applications are reviewed in submission order. Okay, so, and you can't jump any queues either. So you can't, and we have done on some clients' behalf, send begging letters to the CQC saying we'll go bankrupt. And it really happened. We'll go bankrupt if we don't get to open on such and such a date. So it's really important you get all this stuff right along the way. So applications are reviewed in submission order. If they return documents to you, then if they return all your documents to you, they'll then put you to the back of the queue again. So really important you get this stuff right. So, which is what I've just said. So if your paperwork is incomplete or inaccurate, it will delay approval. New squat practices that open up nearly always have a pre-opening inspection. Sometimes it's done virtually, not very often, but sometimes it is done virtually. You might be horrified, which I am actually, to know that actually there are about 2,000 dental practices in the UK that the CQC's never inspected. And there are some that have had 3 or 4 inspections, so it's a little bit of a random process. But usually new squat practices will have an in-person inspection from a CQC inspector. And the registration inspectors are different people from the people who then go on and inspect after you're registered. And they are a little bit of a law unto themselves. So it is really important that you get everything in place. And just once again, just to stress, you can't open until your registration's approved. So how and where and when does it all go horribly wrong? So missing or outdated DBS certificates. So you must make sure that you have the right DBS certificates for the roles in your practice. So the clinical team all need to have an enhanced DBS, and it needs to be in date and it needs to be related to your practice. So you can't use a DBS from somebody who's come to join your practice from another practice. You need another DBS for that person that is joining you. So missing or out of date DBS is a big one. Incomplete or inaccurate supporting documents, we've talked about that already. Incorrect provider type, we've talked about that as well already. So just make sure you know exactly what you're going to register as. Delays bringing all the supporting evidence together. Now, I'd be pretty sure that you are going to continue working somewhere else until your squat practice is ready to open. That's it's quite a tall order, that, because you are looking after your patients in one practice, you have a life as well, and then you're trying to get your new squat practice up and running. So it is hardly surprising that perhaps a few balls get dropped along the way, and you perhaps don't remember that you needed a consent policy and a complaints policy. So delays putting all the evidence together. We provide a service at Dentistry Compliance that helps practices all the way through registration. And this is one of the biggest things that holds practices up. So we will ask you to send us the documents. We will check the documents that you've got, or we'll provide them to you. But it's quite often, because you've got a day job as well, it just takes a little bit more time to bring all the evidence together. Another big trip up is premises not ready or not compliant. And then one that you really do need to make sure you get right, which is a poor understanding of the CQC standards, so the fundamental standards by the registered manager. I'll talk a bit more about that right now, actually. So the registered manager interview is conducted as an online interview. It's usually 1.5 to 2 hours long. And your registered manager, whether that's you or somebody you've brought in, your practice manager, must understand their responsibilities under the Health and Social Care Act. Bear in mind, please, that the registered manager has legal accountability alongside the practice owner. So if you are the practice owner and the registered manager, the legal accountability is all yours. If you're appointing a registered manager who's going to be your practice manager, that practice manager needs to understand that they have legal accountability alongside you. That's really important. The registered manager needs to bring their knowledge of the CQC's fundamental standards into answers to the questions. So the CQC have this bizarre language they speak that isn't really pretty much anything that we're used to in dentistry. So bringing some of the language in, and also understanding when they talk about service providers and users are patients. we would call them patients. The CQC calls them service users. So really making sure that the registered manager, whoever it is, does have a good understanding of the CQC's fundamental standards. Now, tomorrow we're going to talk about how the CQC inspects. So the registered manager understanding all of that is really important as well. And if you'd like help and support, we can provide that to you, coaching and training. So what kind of issues are you likely to have? Well, staffing issue is a really big problem, because when do you recruit? You can't open a practice with nobody working there. But if you recruit too early, then you're going to be paying somebody and they're not going to be doing anything, which is why it's so important that the premises are ready, that the documents are ready, that everything's ready to go. So when to recruit is really difficult. I think putting feelers out early on is a really good thing to do. We all know that recruitment's a massive crisis in our profession at the moment. We've had a revolving door of trainee nurses going through our practice recently, and it's tough. It's really, really tough. So when to recruit is difficult. What you can't do, though, is open a practice with no staff. So you can't have your CQC registration, or it will delay things if you, and they also have to see that you've got a team there ready to deliver the regulated activities, care and treatment to us in English. So that's a big issue, when to recruit. And we can help you with that as well. Financial issues, if things get delayed, so paying for premises and work, and also perhaps, I think, not understanding your demographic, yes, it would be lovely to have a 5-surgery practice right from the start. Is that a really good idea? Maybe just start with kitting one out to start with, so that you don't have financial issues of your own creation. If it's a sale, so you're actually buying a practice rather than setting up a squat practice, then there is the issue of the buyer becoming frustrated and danger of walking away. That's not so relevant to you. So just finishing up now, what hints and tips could I give to you? So start your CQC registration process as early as possible. And then in red, get expert help early. So I hope I'm not the only person in the room who knows who Lassie is. So Lassie was this wonderful dog, for anyone who doesn't know, who went out and saved everybody. So send Lassie out to get people that know what they're doing to support you. And we're going back to the financial issues, I'm a great believer in you get what you pay for. You may find people who can do things cheaply for you, a builder who can do things cheaply for you, an accountant who's going to charge you less, a lawyer that's going to charge you less. But if it turns out costing you more in the long term, is that really a good saving? So get expert help early on. And then once you're registered, that's not the end of it. That's the start of your new journey. So you need to look after your team. You need to make sure you have strong financial management systems in place from the start. And we're going to hear from an expert in that area either today or maybe tomorrow. And you need to market your services effectively. And certainly that's something Bobby is very passionate about too. You need to make sure in this day and age that you embrace technology, absolutely, and that you understand the benefits and the potential pitfalls. AI is a wonderful, wonderful tool. I attended last year a couple of very interesting online, they were, symposia by the Medical Protection Foundation on the legalities of using AI in clinical practice. And there's no doubt that AI has the ability to hugely enhance things, but it has to be done alongside human support, human intervention. It would be a terrible thing if we moved to a place where all diagnosis was done by AI, where, I spoke to an AI company not long ago, and they were saying, oh, it's really great. This clinician didn't know what to do when he was repairing an oroantral fistula. So he had AI instruct him. Really? Very bad idea indeed. And where does the liability lie? So I asked that question. I know there were thousands of people on this symposium, and my question was, so where's the legal liability? I thought the answer was going to be always with the clinician. It isn't actually. The answer is that if the AI has false information in it or incorrect information, then it's a joint liability. So, embrace technology, but use it wisely and make sure you understand the benefits of it and also the potential pitfalls. You also need to keep up to date when regulations change. And believe me, they change pretty much every other week. So whoever you choose to support you with your compliance, make sure it is an organization that stays up to date. Don't even consider trying to do that yourself unless you want to, like I am, be very passionate about compliance and do it as a full-time job. And you need to, and we're going to talk about this in a lot more detail tomorrow, you need to make sure, this is what the CQC is coming to inspect upon. So you need to make sure that the care you're providing is safe, that it's effective, that you are caring, that you're responsive to your patients, and that the practice is well led. So use simple, effective systems that ensure that your practice is always inspection ready, that will help you because they'll provide a person to help you and are experts in their field. Now, this doesn't just apply to compliance, this applies to everything we're going to be talking about over the next couple of days. There is such a lot to balance, and if you identify with this gentleman there, I don't blame you. It is a huge balancing act. And if you do feel that you're this rather gorgeous little kitten staring down a long tunnel and it's all very confusing, really just to say to you, you're not alone and we can help you. I've got two colleagues with me today from over the next couple of days from Dentistry Compliance, and they will be very happy to talk to you about how we can help you. What we're going to do tomorrow then is look at how you manage compliance after registration, how you avoid the pitfalls, and how you make sure that your practice is always inspection ready. And I think I just want to finish with that. And I think this is one of probably, or not probably, definitely my favorite ever compliance quote, that if you don't have a compliant business, you don't have a business. So like the lovely gentleman who had to put his practice opening back probably about a month, I think. He'd done all the marketing, got all the advice, but he didn't have a business to market. So unless you get the compliance right, you've got nothing to market. And I think that's also very important. Compliance is for life, not just for your inspection. And that's it from me. So I'm very happy to take any questions. I'm here all today and then till about lunchtime tomorrow. So come and talk to me as well. Talk to my colleagues. Amrita, Ryan, would you stand up? Hold your hands up, please. There. If you'd like a demo of what we do, Ryan has made himself a complete expert on this subject. And Amrita I've worked with previously, and there isn't anything she doesn't know about compliance. So whatever you want to know, please ask us. We're here at your disposal. Thank you.